Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria and in this video I'm going to be sharing 6 virtual interview red flags that you need to avoid. Now, I'm not saying if you display any of these red flags that you'll automatically be disqualified from the position that you've applied for, but what I am saying is that having a culmination of these red flags will not work in your best interest when it comes to having your student nurse interview online or when it comes to applying for your first job as a registered nurse. For those of you who are new here, hello and welcome to my channel. For those of you who have been here for a while or who have seen some of my other videos, I do have a quick question here for you to answer. I'd really appreciate it if you answered it in the comments box below. But for the sake of doing it, I studied a 4-year undergraduate Masters of Nursing degree in the UK, and right now I am working as a registered nurse. So the first virtual interview red flag that you need to avoid at all costs is being in a bad or being in an inappropriate environment when you're having your interview. Some of you guys might be thinking I'm lying when I give you examples, but these are real examples, some of which I've seen with my own eyes. Number 1, having your interview in the backseat of a moving car, not appropriate. Having your interview on a ward where you can hear the call bells in the background, not an appropriate environment. Having your interview in the waiting area in a busy shopping centre, that is not an appropriate environment to have your virtual interview. I don't care if you're applying for nursing school, if you're applying for an apprenticeship, if you're applying to become a band 7 nurse, if you're applying to become a band 2 healthcare support worker. Those environments are not appropriate environments. A semi-professional looking background, that's completely fine. Sat on your bed, background is clear, position your camera, your webcam by a window so you've got light coming through, that is perfect. But don't just think about where you are in terms of, oh, it looks good. You want to make sure that the lighting is good. For this video, all I've done is I've got a window to this side and I've turned my light bulb on. That is it. I don't have any professional lights or anything. You also want to make sure that you are in a quiet environment. Some of you guys may have kids at home who are making noise. You might have pets in the background. Just go into the quietest room in that building, the quietest room in your house. Again, before you start your interview, just say, hello, my name is Maria, or whatever my name is. You may hear some kids in the background. That's because I'm having this interview at home. I have closed the door and I have tried to find the quietest room in this building, in this apartment, or whatever it is, because that's the situation that we are in given the pandemic and everything that's going on. The next virtual interview red flag is having technical difficulties that take longer than 5 minutes for you to resolve. So the main technical difficulties that people tend to come across tends to be they are on mute, or they can't hear what the interviewer is saying, or maybe they haven't set up their camera. What you need to do is make sure, whether you're using Zoom, whether you're using Microsoft Teams, whatever form of virtual interviewing that you're using, make sure you have given the software that you're using the permission to use your microphone and also to use your camera. Because if you haven't given it the permission to use your microphone, the person who is interviewing you isn't going to hear you. If you haven't given the software permission to use the camera, the person who is interviewing you isn't going to see you. And some of you guys might be thinking, oh well, if they don't see me, it's fine, it's going to be like a telephone interview. That isn't okay, because if they just wanted to hear your voice, they would have just done a telephone interview. And again, in this world of virtual reality, almost everything has a virtual alternative. What some jobs are doing, what some universities are doing, they're doing their initial ID checks over webcam at the beginning of your interview. So during your interview, they may say, hey Maria, can you quickly show us your passport? You show them your passport. If your camera isn't working, how are they supposed to see you? And really, when you think about it, webcam has been around for years. Like I can say like at least 10 years. Webcam has been around since before I was born, and even more in the past 2 years. So having technical difficulties during your interview, in my opinion, I think is a testament of your IT capabilities if it does last longer than 5 minutes. The reason why I'm saying if it does last longer than 5 minutes is because, technical difficulties are inherent, when doing interviews online, but it really depends on how long it takes for you to solve it. If you do come across technical difficulties, make sure that you're well prepared to deal with it. Interviews, especially when it comes to nursing school interviews and actual post-registration nursing interviews, chances are they're not just interviewing you, they're probably interviewing somebody else. If they've only allocated 20 minutes for your interview, but the first 10 minutes has been spent trying to manage technical difficulties on your side, they're not gonna take the 10 minutes off the next person. They're just gonna say, okay, you know, not forget it, but they're just gonna say, okay, thank you for your interview, and end the phone call, and then give the next person the 20 minutes that they allocated. The third virtual interview red flag is over relying on notes. What can happen sometimes, virtual interviews, people are thinking, oh, well, the person is just gonna see me from the hip up, that's fine. So if I've got 10 or A4 papers around me, I can quickly just look. The camera is looking at you, yes, from the waist up. Therefore, if you're constantly looking at notes, the interviewer can see exactly what you're doing. And really, when you're constantly looking at notes during your interview, obviously I've got my camera here because I'm reading, not my camera, I've got my phone here because I have notes on here. This isn't an interview, I'm not applying for any sort of position. But if you're constantly looking at your notes, it comes across as unprofessional, it comes across as you being unprepared. Constantly looking at your notes, and think about it. If you were having a face-to-face interview where the person was literally sat directly opposite you, chances are you would not have any notes with you. Why? Because a lot of you would have revised the post, would have, you know, looked at the job description or the course description in detail. There would have been no need for you to constantly be looking at your notes. Look at me, if I'm just like, oh yeah, the 6 C's are, yeah, the culture of compassionate care relates to my nursing practice because there was a situation in 2017 in sixth form that just comes across unprepared. Make sure you do the work beforehand, make sure you read all the relevant documents, make sure you speak to the necessary people, get as much experience, practice. That way when it does come to a virtual interview, you don't have any notes, because trust me, it is very distracting unless the interviewer says you can have an A4 piece of paper with relevant notes on there. Yes, if that's fine, that's fine. Have one A4 piece of paper as they've said. Even still, don't constantly look at it all the time because it just seems scripted, unprofessional, unprepared. The next virtual interview red flag is neglecting basic interview etiquette. Poor posture, constantly playing with your hair, adjusting your makeup, adjusting your clothes, looking behind the camera, talking to someone behind the camera. That isn't necessary. Like, just don't do it. One of it is not maintaining eye contact. Some of you may be thinking, how do I maintain eye contact over webcam? Look directly at the camera. This is me looking at the camera. This is me looking at the viewfinder. This is me looking at the camera, me looking at the Other examples include swearing and dressing inappropriately. If I am interviewing you over the phone, over webcam, sorry, I don't want to see you in your gym wear. I don't want to see you in your tracksuit bottoms. Wear a nice blouse, something like this is fine. Wear a t-shirt, iron your t-shirt. Wear a blazer if you want to wear a blazer. Wear a jumper. Just look professional, look presentable. Another virtual interview red flag is not having the relevant documents to hand. If they told you that they'd like you to have your level 2 certificates, your level 3 certificates, a form of ID, i.e. your passport, a utility bill with your name and address on it, your driver's license, make sure you have that to hand. Make sure you have a printed copy, a photocopy, or even better still, the original document beside you. That way, if they do say, hey, can we see your GCSE certificate? Can we see your BTEC certificate? Can we see your A-level certificate? You can just have it there. Even if they don't say, oh, we don't want to see any ID or we don't want to see your certificates, I personally would recommend that to your left or right, you have a notepad with a pen, so a pen and paper, so you can take down any notes. And I also recommend you have your certificates, i.e. your GCSE, your A-level certificates, maybe your degree certificates. For those of you guys who are applying for registered nursing jobs, make sure you have your PIN number to hand. I still don't know my nursing PIN, my NMC PIN number off by heart. So just make sure you write that down. That way if they have any queries, that way if they say, oh, do you have your PIN number? And they ask you for it, you're not scrambling around on your phone trying to find it, or you're not, you know, looking around your apartment saying, give me 1 minute. You have everything to hand. So yeah, relevant GCSE, A-level, access course certificates, at least one form of ID, including your passport. I would also have my CV, my curriculum vitae to the side. You can refer to it if you want to, but again, don't over rely on notes. And then also make sure you have your NMC PIN number if you are applying for an actual band 5 or above nursing job, and that's if you have your PIN number. If you don't already have your PIN number, don't worry about that, but those are documents that I recommend you guys have to hand. I know I'm, you know, only a college student, or I know I've only just finished my nursing degree, but hey, this is like my portfolio in terms of relevant courses, relevant certificates that I've done, that is a good sign. The final virtual interview red flag is bragging about other positions that you have applied for. And I think this just solely comes from the fact that because it's a virtual interview and people are at home in their own environment, I think they're a bit more relaxed, you know, in terms of maybe more open to talk about things or mention things or even ask things that they would never have asked in a natural face-to-face interview. And one of them is, you know, oh, well, you know, I like this course because it's this, this, and this. This is kind of like the other course that I interviewed at this uni, and this is like this job that I interviewed at this particular hospital. Just think of it as a relationship, you know. If you're in a relationship with someone and they keep bragging about all the other people that they've been with, it's not really gonna leave a pleasant taste in your mouth. The university, especially if it's a very competitive course or very competitive job, you don't want to make that mistake of just telling them, yeah, I've applied for this or I've applied for this. And some people don't make it as blatant as, oh, I've applied for this and I've applied for this, but maybe like, oh yeah, that's a really good question. The interview that I was at last week asked me that same thing. Or, oh yeah, I remember, yeah, because this other uni does the same thing. Just stuff like that. Just be a bit careful. Again, it's not a major red flag, but that, in addition to the other red flags that I've mentioned in this video, definitely doesn't work in your favor when it comes to getting a place on a course or when it comes to, you know, being accepted for that job and all of that stuff. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed filming it. If you want to see more videos like it, give this video a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions or queries in the description box below, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.